Okay, let's start off with papaya rules because the best way I can describe papaya rules in a polite way is race clean, don't fight each other, don't take any risks. At best, if you fight each other, make sure you are very, very safe. Don't even challenge each other. We don't want any crashes. We don't want anything. And also, all we want is constructors title. What do you think, Afolabi? What do you think?
It's
But
funny
I'm
to
being
me.
real. No, they have a point. It's a very good team setup, but with the two drivers that setup only matters when you have two number one drivers. Because if it was the number
Yeah,
one and number two, you don't have to tell what's his name, Checo, that make sure you race clean with Verstappen because there's no racing. What it means is that we have two great drivers, and it means we really don't care about the driver's title. Ultimately, we care about balance. But to me, the only way you can do that is if you have a car that's so good, nobody else is challenging you, but they're still Verstappen, and also they're still Ferrari. Continue. Sorry, Afolabi. Yeah.
yeah. The papaya rules. There's to me it seems to be a little bit of ambiguity in these rules. It reflects a
Too
lack
much ambiguity. Yeah,
Yes, it
yeah.
reflects a lack of clarity in prioritizing your drivers for championship. Now, you jeopardize their chances in both drivers and constructors' championship. Now, if you look at McLaren's decision to let Lando Norris and Piastri race freely, you know, Red Bull doesn't do that. They support a clear number one driver, which is Max Verstappen. Now, if you do this, allow the two drivers of almost even ability to race freely, you risk losing control in very critical moments. And this rivalry could cost them race wins, you know. And I don't know why they've come up with this kind of team dynamics, team philosophy, but I really don't see it as a very good one because as a driver who is ambitious and wants to make it in Formula One, anytime you have the opportunity of a lifetime to win a race, you're not thinking about team orders or some papaya rules somewhere. You're thinking of how you're going to etch your name in the annals of time, how you're going to dip your legs in the annals of time and make history for
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that's the way I
So
see
so
it.
I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna agree with you 100%. So I think that we can also take the opposite in that, like for some teams, like with Red Bull, clearly if Checo's leading a race and they tell Verstappen to to let him pass, he'll do it because he has his Checo's not in the same league as Verstappen. So even if he has a champion, if there's a chance where he can win and it doesn't affect Verstappen's drivers' championship, they let him do it. But if it's affecting his drivers' championship, they'll say, Checo, back off. You get my point.
Yeah.
But that's because Red Bull is clearly a one driver team. So is Mercedes. But with McLaren, when you have two guys that good, you can never expect that. Now let's go back. So you're talking about ambiguity and problems with rules. The team made a mistake in Hungary, which fucked up Piastri, and then what's his name was ahead, Norris, and then they made Norris give the team back. So they claim they have Piastri rules where they have rules where they don't have team instructions. But here's where they contradict themselves. They gave instructions to Norris to give it back to Piastri.
Yeah.
Norris waited for a long time. Very dodgy situation because it's not Norris's fault that the team made a mistake in the decisions for Piastri. To me, Norris should never have been asked to give it back. The team needs to apologize to Piastri after, rather than making Norris give him the place back. Then they tell Norris, remember, you're going to need us later, so make sure you give it back to him. That sounds like a veiled threat in which we will turn against you. So to me, it sounds like they favor Piastri. What do you think about that very quickly before I continue? Yeah.
I think in the case of McLaren, there's this guy, Max Weber, who's supposed to be Oscar Piastri's manager. He was
Yeah,
very,
and he was with Red Bull. Yeah.
yes, he was instrumental in, pushing for equal treatment for his clients. And this basically because of his experiences in Red Bull. There are a lot of complexities involved in managing driver contracts and maintaining team harmony. Even when there's some papaya rules and the team tells you to do this, deep down in the minds of the drivers, they are competitive. They want to win. They don't feel good about it. They feel they are being used as robots. and the
Yeah.
team are
So
just
so
using
basically
them.
what you're saying is that Mark Webber probably told Piastri, don't let them do to you what 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 Red Bull did to me when I was with Vettel.
Exactly. That's what I
Yeah.
feel. That's what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel.
yeah. And so that's the case. So that means the team is in confusion.
So
But now
it
I want to go
stunts
back to another thing.
ambition. It stunts
Yeah, so the team
ambition.
is in confusion. Then, but there's a lot of chaos because there was a sprint race in which they made Piastri give the place back to Norris. But it's too late because they want to get Norris to get as many points for the drivers' championship. And they did it in a situation where they could have been passed by Ferrari, who was trailing behind them. So it seems like they're not ready for the cutthroat of Formula One, at which you have to be decisive. For example, it's clear that Red Bull doesn't care about team constructors. They care about making sure that Verstappen wins.
That
Verstappen is, and let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question, Falabi. Would you rather win the team constructors or have Verstappen and win the drivers race?
look, Moose, nobody remembers any team, man. They remember the names of the drivers. They remember, yes,
They don't
yes.
remember team. They
Nobody
remember the
remembers any
name of
team, man.
Verstappen.
It's the name of a fucking car. Nobody remembers it. They
Yeah,
remember the
and
name of
also
the drivers.
and when we hear Red Bull, we think about champion because it
Yes.
thinks about the greatest driver in the world, Verstappen. You answered it succinctly. So all these papaya rules are ridiculous.
And they
Here's
almost
my own
lost it. Ferrari gave them a last surge.
yeah,
And
because they're so indecisive,
yes,
they made mistakes,
they
and the whole
almost
team is
lost it to
indecisive.
Ferrari.
Then
McLaren
in
almost
one
lost
race,
it to Ferrari.
and then in one race, the sprint race where Norris was beating Piastri, the team told him, "Keep going, Norris, because we need to win the constructors." And Norris said, "No, I'm gonna slow down and give the victory to Piastri because Piastri backed down for me." There's no guts in this team.
No, there's no
Do you?
guts.
Piastri won't even care because it's like I already know you just dashed me a victory. It wasn't mine. So just finish your race. But next year, Piastri is going to race you, and he's not going to give you the drivers' championship.
Of
You're going to
course.
have to fight for it. So here's what I say: Papaya rules needs to be next year. Once it becomes clear that one driver is overwhelmingly the favorite for that team to win and win the drivers' championship, they need to give them team orders. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with you. And that's what I'm standing for because this papaya thing really is diametrically opposed to a player's ambition and his success story. At the end of your Formula One career, what are you going to say? McLaren or your name? It's
Your name, yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, but so that's why. And now, Loracho's here. So here's my solution: until one McLaren driver becomes who has what I call an overwhelming probability of beating the other one and winning the driver's title, let those guys race. But
Of
that means
course.
one of those two has to come. But at some point, McLaren is going to have to get rid of one of those drivers
Sure,
and bring in
sure,
someone who's less competitive. What do
sure.
you think, Lorato? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think McLaren has a strong team to that could be able to win multiple championships between the two of them, and I think maybe that's the way that the
Hold on.
team is looking.
Sorry to interrupt you. I don't think they can win
Yeah,
multiple drivers' championship with the two of those guys because it's too competitive
yeah,
with Ferrari and with Verstappen. But they can win
yeah,
multiple
yeah.
constructors though. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I think from McLaren's point of view, they see that as a possibility now. Uh,
Do you see it as a possibility, especially with George Russell and Mercedes? What I'm trying to say is they have to choose one. I think they could win constructors for the next 6 years, but if they have those two guys, they're going to cancel each other out, and Verstappen and Russell will be winning titles,
yeah, if
and also
I mean if
Leclerc. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
sure. I
Sorry, go
mean
ahead.
if they're not competing themselves for points and chowing points off of each other like they did earlier in the year with like switching positions and things like that, and that is where I think like in terms of the theme of the conversation today, those are some of the cons that when they're the ones who are fighting for each other's
Yeah,
points, it becomes
yeah,
difficult. But
yeah,
I think the key for them is to try and be able to score top threes or 1-2s for as many races as possible within a season.
Which is possible. So here's the
Yeah.
problem, though. For up to almost half of the year, Ferrari is also the fastest car. So that strategy you're talking about only works if they have the fastest car for up to 75% of the year. But now all the teams are converging. So 2025 to me sounds like McLaren won't. McLaren's advantage reaches peak at Zandvoort. So next year they may still have an advantage, but it won't be that advantage. You'll see other teams winning. Then we have to remember that Verstappen brings a point two advantage. And so what I'm trying to say is that there may not be enough space for McLaren to have the luxury of using that type of strategy. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually what could be
Oh no,
the
there's no
race.
way. Go ahead, say it again
One,
because you cut. I was like, we're not going to cut because you have a masterpiece to say right now. Go ahead,
yeah,
say it
yeah,
again.
yeah, because we're entering 2025, or this is going to be like the season of strategy races, right? So the person who can have the best strategy can win, based on how thin the margins are. Of course, like you're saying, the fact that Max has that 0.2 of a second over any driver, regardless of the car. When he does have a good car underneath him, there or thereabouts, messing up uh,
Yeah.
with with the top of the table and things like that. But I think, from what I think, from if McLaren learned any lessons from the mistakes that they made this year, and they make better
Oh
strategies
yeah. If they get
based
the
on,
strategy right, they can
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
can get a driver championship. Yeah.
Based on the data that they
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
especially when we think of Lewis going to Ferrari, and that being a new dynamic, and that
Yeah.
team still getting used to working with each other and things like that. That might be an advantage because
Yeah.
they
So
already
here's
have
my
this
prediction.
perspective. And
My
yeah,
prediction is that if we use papaya rules and and Norris stops making mental mistakes, he will still beat he will still beat Piastri handily. So if next year they have good strategy and they can do clean racing with each other. As long as Norris can uphold his mental position, he will outscore Piastri and he will win next year. But I think that by 2026, when they go to the powertrains and everything, so I think next year is the only year Norris can win a championship. And I think next year, I will even say he's the favorite to beat Verstappen only because they have a superior car. What do you think? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I should think so. Um,
But also Ferrari is
and
dangerous. But the problem with Ferrari is that the gap. So here's what I'm saying: Norris is far better than Piastri right now, not over the long run, but because Piastri has only been for 2 years, Norris has been driving for 6 years. He has enough of a gap, but the gap between Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton is almost zero, and they're going to cancel each other out. Otherwise, if it was only Leclerc on Ferrari or only Hamilton on Ferrari, Ferrari would have the drivers' championship next year. What do you think? Yeah. It's like a new theory.
yeah,
We're getting
I
into the
mean, like
physics
I
of
said, I think that the thing.
yeah. So
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
trying to say is that
but this is what I'm saying is
sorry,
this
very
is
quickly,
that
what I'm trying to say is that
is that
Ferrari was faster than go
McLaren
ahead,
with
go ahead, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
okay, but McLaren has the most stable platform. Yeah, they have the most stable platform in terms of having two drivers that they're already used to, a
Yeah,
technical
and I'm
team
agreeing with
that's
you.
gotten used to
But
each
the
other for
problem
a
with them
couple of
is
years.
strategy and also um uh I'm too drunk now. Lando Norris' inability to capitalize off of starts and stuff is what's really the problem. Go on. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
No, no, you're
But I
right. They
think
have the most
for
stable
the most
platform.
for the most part,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
but I
for
would
the most
argue with
part,
you that Ferrari probably doesn't have as much of a stable platform, but they have better aerodynamics. But go ahead. Yeah. Well, aerodynamics
yeah,
means platform too. So Ferrari has better shape. That's a better word
yeah,
for it.
but the platform that I'm talking about in terms of McLaren is like an overall thing.
Oh yeah, with
This
engineering
this
and
this
science and everything.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this new change that's coming into the Ferrari is it's like any other change that you
It's
make onto the
instability,
car.
instability. Yeah.
It's like any other change that someone makes to a car, to the car floor or whatever, that throws the balance off, right? So new team dynamics. I think I add I add team dynamics into that same frame of thinking as
Yeah.
well.
So they're the
The
most
driver
stable
getting
team.
acclimatized to the car, with Lewis only having time to start testing next year when
Yeah.
people have already started testing. I mean, someone like Science has already started testing with Williams, and apparently he was putting good times. As much as it looked slow on the video that we saw,
No, he was
he,
pretty good.
he put
And you know what I heard? You
he
know what I
put
heard?
the faster time the
Signs
faster
even
time.
said. Sorry, I'm going to
Yeah,
let you go back. I have a bad habit of cutting for it. Signs even said, "Who knows? I may be back in Ferrari in a couple of years after Hamilton retired." Go ahead, go ahead,
I
go ahead.
I
Lorenzo, go
I
back.
think
Go
that,
ahead.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
do think that that is a possibility also.
yeah, yeah. But I agree.
I think
So I'm
that's
hearing what you said. So I want to get you back on track because I cut in front of you. But you're basically saying that everything is stable for McLaren. They don't have any driver issues like
for McLaren.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we're only 100% sure of Russell also messing about with them. We're not sure about how well Kimi is going to do, for
No,
Mercedes.
Kimi's not going to be a factor. He's learning.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. In
yeah.
spite of being in the third or fourth fastest car, arguably wherever,
Yeah.
that car is going to be.
I'm going to be real with
Uh,
you. I'm a Verstappen fan, but unfortunately, to me, next year is no, is what's his name is Lando Norris is to lose. If he loses next year, he's rubbish. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
I think that also depends on, how well Red Bull can do with figuring out the car over the coming year. I'm
Yeah,
not
and you can
sure.
believe that Verstappen is already started on doing sim stuff now to give them feedback. You can be sure of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're not entirely sure if they've peaked in terms of how well they can develop the car.
No, yeah. What is it? They kind of went down this year. Very quickly, I want to say nobody should ever talk bad about Checo. Checo came second in the drivers' championship last year, and he's dropped as a driver. He was doing well this year until their car dropped, and I just think he couldn't handle the chaos of their disintegration.